الآشور بيروح رستم إبراهيم من بلدة تل تمر من قرية الجزيرة.
أنا النصراني بسام عيسى ميشائيل مواليد 76 من قرية تل شمران تل تمر.
أنا النصراني الآشوري عبد المسيح أزاريا نوية مواليد 1979 من قرية الجزيرة ناحية.
أنا النصراني الآشوري زي جورج إيليا مواليد 1988 من قرية الشبيران ناحية تل تمر.
أنا النصراني الآشوري ويليام يوخنا ملحم ناحية تل تمر قرية تل شميران مواليد 1964.
أنا النصراني الآشوري مارتين تمرس مواليد 1966 قرية الجزيرة. نحن موجودين وبالعشرات. نحن مصيرنا مصير هؤلاء إن لم تتخذوا الإجراءات المناسبة لفك أسرنا أدركونا من المصير المحتوم.
double door entry into the church or into the rectory, so very similar type damage, small, contained. Didn't take us much to put it out, but it's very, very disturbing. But like I said, this is the seventh one of similar styles.
As you can see, there appears to be no video cameras coming in or out of the area. Whoever's responsible for this did some research, scouted the area out, and knew that they could get in and get out without possibly being seen.
a free transgender youth empowerment workshop happening right here in Metro Detroit. Here to share the details of this incredible event, Roz Keith, the president and founder of Stand With Trans, along with her son Hunter. Thanks for coming in this morning. I'll tell you what, talk to us a little and tell the viewers, what is Stand With Trans?
What happens when a trans kid is supported? It's just, you really are empowered and you feel like you can do anything and you're not ashamed of who you are. And for a long time I kept it to myself because I was weird. But when I learned the term and I started learning that there were other people like me and I wasn't alone, that's what gave me the courage to speak out and to tell my parents and to tell my community. And since then, like once I've transitioned, I've been so much happier as just a person, and I've become such like an advocate because hearing the stories of kids hurting themselves, of kids killing themselves, which is something that happens way too often in the trans community, it really affects everyone in the trans community, or everyone hears about it.
For more information, there it is on your screen right now about how you can register, how you can get involved. It is free to all participants between the ages of 12 and 23. Again, it's happening tomorrow at Affirmations in Ferndale. Registration
We met the father and brother of one of the victims, an 18-year-old. Her name is Anna Boylan. It was her 4th day of school at community college, and she says that she, before she went into surgery, told her father and brother that she was sitting in class like she normally does. The gunman came in with his gun blazing. Here's what she told her father and brother.
And start asking people one by one what their religion was. Are you a Christian? He would ask them. And if you're a Christian, stand up. And they would stand up, and he said, good, because you're a Christian, you're going to see God in just about 1 second. And then he shot and killed them. And he kept going down the line doing this.
Scientists from a Shenzhen-based company removed the growth gene so those mini pigs stop growing at the age of 1. The company says in the future, customers can choose colors and even the sex of the pigs.
Deadly bombing outside a crowded train station that's in the capital there, killing dozens, injuring many, many more. But we just got new numbers of the amount of people killed in this tragic bombing. The country's Ministry of Health says that 86 people are now confirmed dead and nearly 200 others have been injured. And the blast happened around 10 a.m. local time while crowds gathered for a peace rally near the city's main train station, and one of the explosions was caught on video. Watch.
And flooding threatened millions along the East Coast. Hurricane Joaquin has strengthened to a Category 3 storm. It is churning in the Atlantic and could make landfall in the United States over the coming days. Right now, Joaquin is pounding islands near the Bahamas with winds around 120 miles an hour. Virginia has already declared a state of emergency as the storm is expected to move north.
worst natural disaster in years. Part of this mountainside collapsed late Thursday, burying 125 homes under 1 million cubic meters of earth. Rescue workers and volunteers race against time, shoveling through mountains of dirt in the search for survivors. But today, all they found were lifeless bodies, a hard reality for many here. The landslide hit around 9:30 at night, when many people were at home. It followed days of near constant rain. Those who could ran out of their homes when they heard the hillside crashing down, but many didn't escape.
Southeast are dealing with some of the worst flooding in the area's history. Torrential rain forced hundreds of rescues Sunday in South Carolina. The flooding has killed at least 7 people in the Carolinas.
South Carolina's governor says a downpour like this happens only once in 1,000 years. Several cities have already broken rainfall records for October. Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, received more than 2 feet of rain in the last few days.
Oh my God, the truck is sinking. The truck is sinking.
The devastating flooding hitting South Carolina has reached catastrophic levels. At least 5 people have been killed in the state, and officials are worried that number will rise. Several days of relentless rainfall have left roads so saturated, on Sunday many of them gave way.
We haven't seen this level of rain in the low country in 1,000 years. That's how big this is.
Crews rescued hundreds of people from fast-moving floodwaters.
Yep, he just made a mistake.
The driver of this pickup truck tried to drive through a flooded street, but his car was quickly overtaken. A man swam in to try to rescue him, but moments later, he too was trapped in the high water. Both men were rescued by emergency crews in a scene that is playing out across this. 600 National Guardsmen have been activated, 8,000 are on standby. The Coast Guard rescued this woman and her 15-month-old child after they became stranded in their home in Charleston.
This is an incident we've never had before because it's water and it's slow moving and it's sitting and we can't just take the water out.
Typhoon Mujige landed in Guangdong on Sunday afternoon and headed west for the neighboring Guangxi Zhuang Autonomous Region.
The French Riviera have killed at least 16 people, with 3 others still missing. The Interior Ministry says that the downpour hit the Alps Maritime region Saturday evening, with the resort town of Cannes registering close to 180 millimeters of rain in 3 hours at the height of the stormy weather. During a visit to the flood-stricken region, French President François Hollande expressed condolences to the families of the victims and urged residents to remain cautious. Communications in the region, one of the wealthiest in France and a magnet for visitors from around the world, were badly hit. Around 500 people, many of them British and Danish tourists, were stranded at the Nice airport.
Carolina is still struggling with the devastating impact of historic flooding. President Obama has declared a disaster there. The floods are blamed for 13 deaths in the Carolinas. Some 550 roads and bridges are closed, cutting off entire communities. 40,000 people have no access to safe drinking water.
Crews in National Guard helicopters rescued dozens of people trapped in their homes as the deadly flooding punishing the Carolinas got worse on Monday.
We don't have a place to go. Everything I got is gone.
Several dams were breached, sending water pouring into already flooded communities and prompting mandatory evacuations in Richland County.
I mean, this has been one of the worst things we've seen in the entire time that I've lived here. And you've got people who are displaced from their homes, people whose businesses are wrecked. You know, I don't know how long it'll take for all of us to overcome this.
The next step for emergency management crews is to restore safe drinking water to tens of thousands of people. it is a frustrating reality for people who live in communities now swamped with water.
Its worst drought in recorded history, fueled in part by the El Nino weather phenomenon that warms the waters of the Pacific Ocean. Much of the country is under an official red alert due to water shortages and wildfires. As CCTV's Michelle Begay reports, people are bracing for the worst.
Since February, Diosme Muñoz has been working for the Colombian government, supplying water to 90 neighborhoods in Santa Marta. 15 of these trucks, filled with 5,000 to 10,000 liters of water each, make 4 to 5 rounds a day. The El Nino weather phenomenon is drying up rivers and aqueducts throughout Colombia.
佛山这边日前却出现了海市蜃楼景观，这个杰比04的大楼呢，矗立在云层当中，引发大家热议。但是当地的民众大多没有看到，网友就质疑说，这会不会是拍到镜面折射出来的效果？
An incredible scene in India. This is a lake right in the middle of a crowded city. Bangalore has been dealing with this for some time and it doesn't seem to be getting any better. The fluffy white foam is actually pollution. It's the toxic byproduct of untreated runoff from manufacturing firms. As we can see, the foam often fills a river that flows through the city. People walk right by the foam on bridges and sometimes winds fan the foam into nearby roads. This scooter rider tries to avoid the foam but isn't quite successful. Critics say environmental regulations are inadequate to cope with Bangalore's massive development. They're hoping scenes like this will create pressure for tougher rules. I'm Matt Sampson, The Weather Channel.
Plumes of smoke filling the sky from large fires in Eldridge, Iowa, which is close to Davenport, Iowa, the third largest city in the state. Now, according to the National Interagency Fire Center, there have been 11 million acres that have been burned this year due to fires.
So far, we've had over 11 million acres burned this year in wildfires in the United States. That is really an astronomical number. In fact, it is a record. We've never had a year that up to this point, year to date, in October, that we've had that many acres burned. In fact, take a look at some of the numbers. The closest ranking to this year was almost 10 years ago, 2006, but that was only 9 million acres. Of course, that's a lot. But compared to this, I mean, this year we've had 2 million acres more than that have burned.
Opened up in a factory in central China's Hunan province early Sunday morning, leaving 2 workers missing. The sinkhole measures about 100 meters in diameter and can be seen at the site of a factory owned by a metallurgy company in Hunan's Ningxiang County. The sinkhole also left deep cracks in the surface of a nearby road. 2 of the factory's workers escaped when the sinkhole opened, while another 2 had to be rescued and sent to the hospital. 2 more workers remain missing.
We're really feeling for folks in Italy because they've been dealing with this. A lot of heavy rainfall that's resulted in widespread flooding and unfortunately claimed multiple lives, according to the Associated Press. You're looking at scenes from Benevento on Thursday where cars were submerged. There were shops that were just inundated with mud. As you can imagine, a lot of basements being flooded. Southern Italy is still going to be hit by some storms on Friday, but thankfully other places will begin to see some improvement.
Fire in Texas exploding in size overnight. Thousands of acres burned, homes destroyed, dozens more threatened. ABC's Clayton Sandell is there for us in Texas this morning. Good morning, Clayton.
Overnight, this massive Texas wildfire blowing up more than 10 times larger than 24 hours ago. Firefighting planes and choppers keeping up an all-out aerial assault.
Busiest highways in Southern California are closed after a powerful storm triggered dangerous flash flooding. Fast-moving mudslides covered parts of Interstate 5. They stranded hundreds of cars and trucks. Some trapped drivers were there. No one was reported hurt.
911! Help!
Violent thunderstorms lashed Southern California Thursday. Torrential rains fell 4 to 6 inches per hour, flooding streets and triggering powerful mudslides, leaving drivers helpless.
Are we stuck? Yeah, we're stuck.
This area is devastated right now.
California's busy Interstate 5 became a river of mud, burying cars and leaving hundreds of drivers stranded. Firefighters rescued people trapped in their vehicles and in homes swallowed up by the mud.
Traffic came to a complete stop. Mud just started pouring down the mountain, down the road, and just kind of engulfed everything.
Oh my God! Run for your life!
Thousands of cars and trucks were backed up for miles.
I've been out here for 24 years now, and I've never seen this much water in 24 years. You really can't tell how fast that's moving and how safe it is.
The powerful system pounded the city of Palmdale with golf ball-sized hail and 60-mile-per-hour winds. Nia Glenn says she only had minutes to rescue 20 horses when her ranch began to flood. Authorities say no one was injured or killed by the mudslides that trapped about 200 vehicles and the passengers inside.
As you can see from the vehicles behind me, I mean, they're buried. So the windows are down, but they're buried up to the top of the doors, and it had to be quite frightening.
Images coming to us from the Philippines. Typhoon Kopu made landfall yesterday, but look at what's happening there right now. According to Save the Children, 4.5 million children impacted by this huge typhoon. We also have now 9 million people without power. Imagine that. So many roads washed away, bridges as well, just impassable due to mudslides and flooding. We even have pictures of a boat that was capsized, and the people had to actually be on top of it, on top of the hull of the boat, waiting to be rescued. There was another boat there, as you can see in the distance, to rescue those people, but they are hanging on.
They've been dealing with, what is that, a motorcycle, moped, a car flipped over on its side. Look at this guy just hanging on and checking it out.
Yeah, good luck with that. Streets, they've turned raging torrents, carrying away those cycles you're talking about, tipping over the cars, all kinds of issues. Floods were strong enough to actually collapse a building.
And breaking news now is the strongest hurricane ever recorded continues its track over Mexico's southwestern coastline tonight. At 11, I'm Jeff Gianola, and look at these images from NASA and the eye of the storm. Hurricane Patricia forcing the evacuation of towns in Mexico. It has shut down airports. Millions of people impacted, including a few locals who were vacationing in Mexico.
County, where you see a freight train has derailed, and this is directly related and caused by the flooding we're seeing in this community. The tracks have washed away.
A massive 7.5 earthquake in northern Afghanistan shook buildings from Kabul to Delhi, cutting power and communications in some areas. An Afghan news channel recorded the moment the earthquake struck, forcing the anchor to leave the studio. Officials say more than 250 people have been killed, with the death toll likely to rise. The casualties are mostly in Afghanistan and Pakistan, with several hundred people wounded. At least 12 students at a girls' school in Afghanistan were killed in a stampede as they fled shaking buildings into Kar province. Another 42 girls were taken to the hospital. Civil and military authorities across the region have mounted rescue operations trying to reach remote areas impacted by the quake. With telecommunications disrupted, officials say the full extent of the damage won't be known for quite some time. Bonnie Ghosh, Associated Press.
Really scary situation that is evolving through here as people are trying to run and seek shelter after a 7.5 magnitude earthquake struck northeastern Afghanistan earlier in the day on Monday. And as officials feared, take a look at this. Hundreds of people now reported dead, and officials again are still wondering if those numbers are going to climb up significantly more. There's a fear that landslides could come following days of excessive rainfall. So as you saw, widespread shaking that was felt across Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India, including Kabul, Islamabad, and New Delhi.
At least 5 people were killed in a downpour in Alexandria on Sunday. One death was caused when a street pole collapsed, according to the Ministry of Health. Some passers-by poked fun at the situation, with one man taking a fishing rod out on the streets. But others here are angry at the lack of support from the government. The stormy weather pushed sewage through the streets, leaving areas submerged in dirty water and residents frustrated by the lack of support from government officials. According to a presidential statement, Egyptian Prime Minister Sharifa Ismail said that the 9 hours of rainfall filled the streets with an unprecedented 3.2 million square meters of water. Noel Makuru, CCTV.
Earlier in the day, definitely a lot of water out there on the roadways, and anyone will tell you that when you're dealing with salt water, mechanically, that's going to do some damage to the undercarriage of it.
Overnight, powerful storms battered the Gulf Coast. In Baton Rouge, Louisiana, 8.5 inches of rain lashed the capital city Sunday. More than 1,000 people lost power in their homes as the remnants of Hurricane Patricia continued to move across the South. So far, Texas has seen the worst of the flooding. Over the weekend, record amounts of rainfall in several cities left cars submerged, their drivers stranded, and prompted dozens of water rescues. In Houston, we saw Duck Nguyen staring at his stranded sedan. It was stuck for more than 9 hours. 18 inches of rain fell in Corsicana, Texas.
They just kicked the window in.
Their emergency crews spotted this pickup truck nearly submerged. Inside, they rescued an 80-year-old man and his dog, trapped by quickly rising water.
Severe storms and possible tornadoes are tearing across parts of Texas, leaving a trail of devastation in their wake. In Bexar County, there are reports of several high water rescues, including 2 school buses with nearly a dozen people on board. This was the scene in Floresville this morning, about 30 miles southeast of San Antonio. You can see the high school there was heavily damaged, debris everywhere, cars nearly destroyed. In D'Hanis, another hard-hit town about 50 miles west of San Antonio, more of the same. Roofs and walls ripped off buildings, businesses in shambles. The storms could spawn tornadoes and flash flooding across parts of Texas and the Deep South through Saturday.
In San Marcos, Texas, outside Austin, officials called in armored trucks to evacuate students from an elementary school.
So it's flooding here.
Near Austin, Kerry Packer shot this video after calling for help while still trapped in his car, swept away by floodwaters.
So you can see I'm floating down some sort of creek.
People to walk across this area.
And we're looking at that video that you shot, Heather.
Yeah,
what an incredible situation. A successful water rescue captured here in Hays County. What were the emotions of the folks there who got pulled out? Did you have a chance to speak with them briefly?
Yeah.